I've travelled 6 hours north to Glasgow. Why? Because over my shoulder is Glasgow Angling Centre and it's their open weekend. Last time I was with this gentleman, and I use that term loosely, Scott Mackenzie, we were in Mauritius and he landed a £140 tuna. Scott, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you, Kel, as always.
Now, 2009, you set out on yourself.
We did.
With the Mckenzie brand.
We did.
Now, it's been very, very popular worldwide.
Yes.
But this year, you started with some new products. So what's new on the Mckenzie range?
We started off with what I'm known for, which is the double-handed rods.
Yeah.
So coming from a casting championship background and all that, we came out with a brand called Design Through Experience. As you know, I was champion caster, but I was also a gillie around Scotland for 22 years. So we launched with the brand with double-handed rods, which I'm known for. But now we're starting to move into other types of rods, single-handed rods and switch rods.
Now this is the first single-handed rod launched by Scott.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what is it basically?
It's a 10-foot 7 weight.
Right.
With all the Mckenzie product, we really do go for quality all times. Yeah. And this is no exception. The build finish is absolutely the best you can get. We've gone for an action, a crisp sort of 7 weight. No one really likes, well, I certainly don't, too soft a rod, especially with a 10-foot 7 weight. You want a rod, and especially, you know, if you're buying a high-end rod, you want a rod that'll maybe do several different things for you, not just a...
So like a light grilse rod, loch-style fishing,
a bit of sea trout fishing, a good all-rounder.
I tell you what really stands out to me, sorry to interrupt you there, but the matte finish. Now, a lot of people go for glossy finish, but matte finish for me is the best thing. Doesn't spook fish, and it looks quality.
Absolutely. If it goes shiny, it's, you know, it can look a wee bit kind of cheap. We don't need to do that. The quality and the reputation we've built up now, it's classy going for a matte finish. It is nicer, better to fish. It's not getting the shine. So
and 4-piece rod as well.
4-piece.
Easy transportation, fantastic.
That's the length of it.
Yeah, brilliant.
Fit in a suitcase.
Fit in the back, like boot of the car.
Absolutely.
Right, so that's your single-handed rod.
Single-handed rod, Hal.
Then you mentioned some switch rods.
Switch rod. This is the rod that, if I'm being honest, I wouldn't have probably come out with this up to about 3 years ago. But there's been a huge shift onto these switch rods.
Now, go on, right? A lot of people out there will be trout anglers, they might be salmon anglers, but they don't actually understand, well, what is this switch thing all about? So try and explain a little bit about that.
Right. So if you're fishing on a river or somewhere, and you want to maybe do a wee roll cast, wee kind of spay cast, the banks might be really steep or overgrown, trees, whatever. Sometimes it's hard if you're doing a single-hand rod, if you're going to do an overhead back cast, you're going to be straight in the trees and the bushes. Switch rod allows you to use it both. We're one of the few brands that actually has a detachable handle, so you can have this as a single-handed, or you can have it as a double-handed. And the benefit of this is, again, you can have it on the lochs, whatever. If you're fishing in the boat, it keeps the rod slightly, the reel slightly away from yourself, so much easier than having the reel right against your body. If you're on the rivers, you've got a wee bit more kind of lever. Again, the reel's not right against you, and you can play a fish a lot easier. You've got like a fighting back below you as well. So
you've got a single-handed rod. How many switch rods?
Just the one model to start
Just
with.
one switch rod. And then what's the next thing?
We've just launched a new range of rods called the G2. Basically stands for Generation 2.
Right, I haven't even seen these. This is the first time I've ever seen them. Now, I've got the Generation 1 and they are a cracking rod to fish with. Now, I've got the 14-foot. Perfect. So what's the difference now in the Generation 2?
We've changed the actions. We've really, I'll be honest with you, it was hard to prove because we put so much time and effort into the originals. We really did. Before we launched, we made sure we got it right. So it was really a big task to try and make the Generation 2 even better than the originals. But we did. We studied what people had said, and we took on board little things. So maybe if some of the rods were maybe a little bit faster, if they said, oh, Scott, that's a good rod, but it's maybe a little bit stiff for the size, little things like that. The brand is built up because designed through experience. And that was my experience of all the years on the riverbank, but also several others that we've got in the design team. And they're made up of a world-class team, and sort of a combined team effort now. around us. And so DTX is not longer just what Scott's experience is. It's the DTX is design team experience rather than just Scott's experience.
Every length end, there's just little tweaks here and there. Some could be a little bit slower, some could be a little bit faster maybe.
A little bit faster. Generally, on the bigger rods, you would say that the rods load slightly deeper down. There'd be a deeper action. Now, that allows you your timing, maybe in some cases, not be just as accurate. So if your timing is just slightly out, if you've got a rod that loads deeper down the blank, it gives you a little bit more time. So
it's a little bit more forgiving.
A little bit more forgiving, exactly that. And so the trend is to go to very fast, kind of tippy rods. And we do that. We've got the shooting head range. We design a range of rods, as you know, for shooting heads. Now, if I just put that down a wee second, or cheers, Hal. What we've done here in the shooting head rods, these are slightly faster action rods. Now, when you're using a shooting head line, you're using a lot of bottom hand there. So maybe 70% power will be coming from the bottom hand. So we've designed a bottom hand that's very different to what we would on the spay rods. You can see there, the handle on the spay rod is slightly longer. Bottom handle there. So when you're fishing with a spay line, traditionally we would be your power would be generated 50% power in the top, 50% power in the bottom hand, flexing the rod. Shooting heads, we tend to use maybe more 70% power on the bottom. So what we've done, because you're pulling that bottom hand in towards you, you don't always want too long a bottom handle, because it could be, especially if you're fishing, you've got your waders on, you've got your jackets on, it is quite bulky. So you're not wanting a bottom handle that's too long, and especially if you're wanting to really use that bottom handle as you are in the shooting head. So we've designed a shorter bottom handle, but with a much more pronounced ball on the end to allow you to grip that rod. A lot of people don't grip the rod properly. So, if we were to say, how would you grip that rod? How would you fish with that rod here? What a lot of people would do is they grip the rod here and there, and then they want to go salmon fishing. But you've done two monumental errors before you even start casting. Fly casting is all about flexing the rod, getting the rod to bend and flex. The line will always go where the tip goes, so you want to guide the tip of that rod where you want the line to go. If the tip goes there, the line will go there. So rather than holding the rod like that, always hold the very end of the rod, very there. So this ball-shaped thing, ball and socket there, allows you to hold the end of the rod. Now you can guide that rod much easier, guiding the rod in position when you're holding the end of the rod rather than you're holding up shaft. The other thing is too that people tend to have too long a grip, so they always go to hold the top of the cork.
I know you shorten the handles to stop them doing that.
Stop them doing that. So you don't want too long a handle. You always want a grip on the rod. It's the same width as your body and your shoulders. So we'll be gripping the rod back roughly about here. And what that allows you to do is to flex the rod, keeping this arm slightly bent, because the most natural thing in the world to do is to throw your arm out into it.
And there you go, a few tips from 3-time world champion Scott Mckenzie. Remember, G2 Generation 2, the new rods, a single-handed rod as well, and a switch rod. Come in store, try them, and I'm sure you'll be impressed.